From the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, this is the SDM Show with your host, Rob Cairns. The SDM Show focuses on business, life, productivity, digital marketing, WordPress, and more. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy the show. Here is Rob.
Hey everybody, I'm Rob Cairns. I'm the founder, CEO, and chief creator of Amazing Ideas at Stunning Digital Marketing. In today's podcast, I let my friend Todd Jones take over the podcast and he interviews me. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. This podcast is sponsored by Stunning Digital Marketing, the agency that can help protect your WordPress website today. Go to stunningdigitalmarketing.com and see what we can do to help you protect your business investment. That's stunningdigitalmarketing.com.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the SDM show. If you can tell, I am not Rob Cairns. My name is Todd Jones. I've been on the show a few times, and I've hacked into Rob's StreamYard account, and I'm going to record this show for him. We're going to have a little fun. I know how sometimes people will take over an email newsletter. Well, this is Takeover Day. Friday, the Takeover Day with Todd Jones from Copy Flight. And Rob asked me to interview him today, so here we are. And hey, Rob, I'm going to say, hey, how are you doing?
I do good. It's like 17 Celsius or 20 Celsius. It feels like spring out there, and there's leaves everywhere, which means more work for Rob to do. But that's
never. It's job security, right?
Yep, of course.
Household job security.
Yeah, it's so true. There's always job security, Todd.
Now, fall is one of my favorite times of the year, naturally, and we're getting deep into the college football season. And you and I are both big college football fans, and I'm a fan of the Razorbacks in Arkansas, which of course is not having that grand of a year. But Florida State, I'm rooting for because they're still winning. And they're undefeated, and they also here's a nice little connection for your audience at the SDM show. Florida State is Rob's team, and their head football coach is a guy named Mike Norvell. And Mike Norvell played his college football at the University of Central Arkansas, right here in Conway, Arkansas, where I live. I tell the people in Steve Roller's back room that my office is just 2 blocks from Toadsuck Square. But Mike played football at the UCA, and he was an interesting-looking fellow back in the, I think it was the early 80s. He played here, or maybe mid to late 80s, back when they were a powerhouse in NAIA football. And so there's a little bit of a connection for you for the listeners of the SDM show. But this is going to be kind of a getting to know Rob segment. And for some reason, he thought I was the guy to ask the questions. And true, I do know a lot of the stuff he's going to talk about. So maybe I am the right guy to ask the question to do this. So you ready, Rob?
Yeah, of course I'm ready. So let's
I should have 10 rapid fire questions ready for you. That would be so much fun, but I don't. Yeah. But let's just start with this. A couple of either or type questions. Cake or cookies?
Cookies.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Tacos or pizza?
Tacos.
All right. Sounds good to me. Sounds like a good Canadian answer. Anyway, okay. So now we know a little bit about Rob, but let's start with you wanted me to ask you about a couple of different beginnings, origin stories is what we call them. In the business world, one is the WordPress and one is the agency origin story. Let's start with the WordPress origin story. I know you were helping family members with pictures and events, and that's kind of how it got started. Can you take us back to the time in which you jumped into the WordPress space?
Sure, gladly. Originally in my family, I'm kind of like the all tech guru, that as Leo Laporte calls it, the tech guy in the family. That's been my business for over 30 years, so not surprising. And we go to family get-togethers, and Rob would be the one with the camera in his hand. So if you look at a lot of family get-togethers, probably 30 years ago, I'm not in a lot of pictures. And then I got smart and started handing my camera to people and said, make sure you get me in some pictures, because it just worked out that way. The guy with the video camera and the camera at that time delay wasn't the same. And one of the things I would do is take those pictures and throw them on a slideshow on an HTML website. And my first website was under the domain cairns-clan.com. Clan is a genealogy term for family. And if you go to that URL today, it actually forwards to my business domain. So I still own the original URL I started. And I created a technical website where I threw all these pictures on. And then I threw all the silly techie questions family members kept asking me, because I got tired of answering. So I'd say, go here, read it. And then if almost like an FAQ, frequently asked questions page. And then I discovered WordPress, and moving everything to a content management system made the personal side easy. And at that time, I was still employed in healthcare. I had no intention on starting an agency, and it just kind of went on from there.
Let me ask you a question. The camera you were using, was it a film camera or a digital camera at that time?
Probably a bit of both, film and digital. So I didn't really start the venturing down the hobby photography side until digital. And I've actually got digital pictures back to 1999, believe it or not. So that's about the time. The first digital camera I owned was a 1 megapixel HP Hewlett Packard.
Yeah,
and my mom owned a 1 megapixel Canon and used it for real estate, believe it or not. So that was kind of my family's venture into the digital camera age.
I laugh and say that my camera that I have now is probably a whole lot better than that first digital camera I got. It, I believe it was Staples several years ago. A little bitty old thing that, probably, it was probably $100, $200 or something. I don't know what it was. It what what I could afford, and I use that thing in different venues. But before we move into like how that's how you got into WordPress. You're using it to help with your family website. I'm not sure if people know, because before WordPress, Rob actually did technical work in the healthcare facilities, everything from customer service to, I guess, some help desk type stuff. Can you elaborate on that just a little bit?
Yeah, and even before that, my original background is actually coding. I'm an old school COBOL programmer. There's a language from the dark age of business systems. Came out of school in 88, came out of college, took my first job with Allstate Life Insurance. Then went over to a fraternal life insurance company called the Independent Order Forsters. Got tired of that. They went directions, and then got into technical support. So I landed in healthcare, which is really what I wanted to do. I wanted to work with personal computers, but it was ahead of my time at the time. I was responsible for driving year 2000 project, Women's College Hospital at the time. So that was a big Y2K migration of PCs on nursing units and end users and all kinds of stuff. And then in healthcare, I did everything from being on the on-call team, being a senior member of our on-call team. So that was the first page at night would go out to the client services support team. Running projects, ran multitude of projects in the Emerge and in the OR and various people. One of my favorite projects was we put, before tablets, we put PCs on wheels in the OR, carts, wireless PCs, so they could take them in an operating room and move them around the room. They weren't kind of latched to a wall or a desk or something like that. And spent a lot of time doing on-call support, server support, exchange support. So I've kind of been all over the technical side of the business a little bit.
Yeah, and your schooling, after high school, your schooling was actually in technology, was it not?
It was a business admin with a major in programming. I've also got, as of today, I've got continued education. I've got 17 designations after my name, believe it or not, and everything from project management to Facebook ads to you name it. So the big thing is I've kept up my skills, and I have 2 college diplomas, and one of those is in the technical side as well. Yep.
So you started your first WordPress site was for the Cairns clan.
Mhm.
What came next? What was the next WordPress project that you worked on?
A couple for some nonprofits to help out, a couple blogs for some nonprofits back before when WordPress was only a blogging platform. And I was thinking the other day, one of my longest clients in my business is the Burlington Conservative Association. They've been with me now over 10 years. So, I've got some really good long-term relationships. I built them a website, had to deal with a web developer who didn't want to give up domain names. Have we all been there or what,
Yeah.
And deal with that. And they're still long-term clients of mine. I was actually on the phone with them yesterday. So shout out to them.
So at this point in your career, you're still doing the IT healthcare, and this WordPress stuff is just like something you do on your own time, kind of a side hustle, correct?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So when did you transition from, hey, this is a freelance, I do it on the side, to, hey, I'm going to go full agency?
So 15 years ago, coming up in March, my boss's boss called me in. I'd been on vacation for 3 weeks. And they basically said they didn't need me anymore. We're going to buy you out. And I said, okay. And I wasn't surprised, to be honest with you. There were changes going on I didn't like at the time. And somebody had asked me 6 weeks before, what are you going to do with those changes? I said, I'm going to force them to buy me out. I've been there long enough. So, and they bought me out. And my dad was dying of pancreatic cancer at the time. So the cool thing was it enabled me in the last 6 weeks to his life, or 4 weeks, 5 weeks, to be at his bedside every day, 12 hours a day. Ironically, the day he passed away, I was the only one of my siblings not in the room at the time. I had gone for lunch, and I think that's the way he wanted it. So I don't kick myself for that. And then I kind of, after he passed away, took a vacation and then got the agency going full tilt and went from there.
So I guess you were on a contract then with the IT healthcare if they had to buy you out.
No, I wasn't. I was on salary. I'd been there over 21 years at the time. So
okay,
under Canadian employment laws, that they let you go, unlike the U.S., where they can terminate you for any reason. It costs them money. So it costs them money. Okay. I actually walked with almost 2 years' salary, to be honest with you.
Good. Okay, so what was your first step? You decided you probably didn't do anything for 6 months, right? You had the freelance stuff going on, but you probably didn't go full time because you're, end of life for your father and attending to that. But after, whenever that had passed and you had an opportunity to kind of catch your breath and, okay, next thing, what was next for you?
I started doing some websites for some small businesses because at that point, WordPress was coming out of the blogging sphere and becoming a full CMS. One of the first CMS, first page builders I ever landed on was one called Headway Themes. And those in the WordPress space know about the debacle with Headway and how they fell apart. And then I went from a Headway development to using Aveda, which is a theme by theme forest. That's their number one selling theme of all time, and has a page builder built right into it. Then morphed into Beaver Builder and then into blocks. But the other thing we're sharing is I learned early on that websites were only part of the equation, and that I needed to find a way to market these websites for clients, and just putting out a website wasn't good enough. So I spent a lot of time doing some marketing courses. One of my big mentors in the game is Paul Toby. Those in the WordPress space will know Adrian Toby, the founder of Groundhog. Paul is Adrian's dad. And I'm forever grateful to some courses I took with Paul many, many years ago. Paul and I are still friends to this day and colleagues, so that's important to me. And then I just, I realized the best way to market sites. One was an email newsletter, and then I kind of went from there.
Yeah, that's, well, again, I guess we're kind of getting your business, your marketing background. But for those who actually manage websites or build websites for people, I mean, you how I kind of liken it to a new physical location of no one's going to buy anything if they don't come in the store, so you got to get them to the store. And you know, and I tell people, harkening back to the old movie with Kevin Costner, you know, if you build it, that doesn't mean they'll come. You know, like in the movie, if you build it, they will come. That's not how it works in the world. And sure, you know, there is some things you can do, and SEO is a part of the equation. But most of the stuff we do is kind of long term, right? You know, whether it's content marketing or even a SEO plan of some kind. But you have found that, and I think it's true, you can get quicker traction with advertising, marketing, you know, digital advertising. And so I guess at this point, you know, and you did talk about the email newsletter, and we'll get to that later. But I guess this is the point where you learn the marketing part of it, and how you said you had Facebook advertising, certification, that kind of thing. This is probably the point where you begin to learn how to do some of those things. Is that correct?
Yeah, and the only way to learn is trial and error and seeing what works. I'm a big fan of talking to people that have done it before and that are smarter than you. Like, I'm a big fan of that. Reading, diversing, attending workshops, taking courses, and then trying it, because not everything works. And the other thing I'd say about digital advertising is it's really hard. The rules have changed so much in the last 5 years. And
everything's harder. Everything's harder.
And then if you get banned, like in my case, my business domain's been banned from Facebook for over 2 years. So for me, running Facebook ads is almost pointless, to be honest with you. Like, there's no point.
Yeah. So do you do Google ads when you do ads, or is that the only thing you work with? I know you do.
I've done some Google ads. I've done some LinkedIn ads. I haven't run any in the last 6 months, but for me, yeah. For clients, it depends what they do.
Yeah, I mean, your business is you've hit that critical mass where your email and newsletter and your podcast is kind of keeping things rolling, for sure. So that's kind of. Let's go back to your mentor, Mr. Toby. Tell me his first name. It's Adrian's dad. What's Paul? Yeah,
it's
Paul. What kind of thing?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, what did you learn? I mean, you know, 3 or 4 points. What did you really learn from him as a mentee from Paul Toby?
I would say the number one thing was mindset.
Mindset.
Paul and I used to have an agreement in classes. He realized that I knew more technically and than most of his students. So we actually had an agreement in courses, and these were like workshop style courses, business courses. So you'd have 10 people, 15 people. Paul runs a company called Training Business Pros. He used to have a location in Toronto where he offered workshops. He doesn't anymore. He now lives in Niagara on the Lake. And the biggest thing, honestly, was mindset. I mean, he always said that technically, and I was really good. I just needed to get the mindset down. So for me, that was probably the number one thing. I would say to you, I probably learned more from Paul through conversations before and after class than sometimes in classes. And that's hard to believe. It was just those off-the-cuff convos we'd have sitting at his desk before he'd go in to teach. And so for me, mindset, I would almost bet.
Yeah, that's and sometimes we do learn more, from someone in a more casual setting than we do in the formal setting. The formal setting is almost like the formal setting gives us access to the casual setting, and so anyway, yeah. So you begin to grow your business, I guess. At this point, you'd taken classes from Paul and begin to learn about marketing. Can you take us back, some of the things you did to grow your business?
A lot of advertising early on, a lot of word of mouth, a lot of seminars, speaking engagements. If somebody asks me to speak, I jump. I don't think I've found a stage I don't like. I started growing an email newsletter early, which we'll talk about. Blogging at the time. Blogging back then was still a big deal and got more traction, I believe, than it does today. And things like that. And just being helpful to people. If somebody's got a question on X, formerly known as Twitter, answer it, help them. That kind of stuff. And get involved. That's the other big thing.
So not long ago, and it's it's been a few years now, because probably as long as I've known you, maybe before that even, you began to narrow down a big part of your business to website maintenance, WordPress website maintenance, and thereby web security, which is really an extension of website maintenance, WordPress maintenance, because it's a have to, right? It's not an optional deal. You have to have website security to some degree. Can you talk a little bit about your decision to really go into the WordPress maintenance space and thereby the security part of it as well?
Yep. So one of the biggest factors, Todd, was reoccurring revenue. Security is reoccurring. A lot of it's work behind the scenes. A lot of it, not that I'm talking to people. I'm pretty extrovert, but as you know, but I mean, you don't have to spend a lot of time with clients dealing with that. I don't get a lot of client calls about stuff not working. I'm working on one problem right now. The other thing is, the problem with new site builds is the term we call in the business scope creep. Now, it's funny, at the time of this recording, I was in build mode this morning, and that subject came up again, and how to deal with it. And I'm pretty pointed. I kind of say, I attribute building websites to like going to a restaurant. So if you want the glass of wine, it's X dollars. If you want the food, it's X dollars. If you want the dessert, it's X dollars. If you want the salad, it's X dollars. Websites are no different. And clients seem to have a problem with that. They want the Porsche for Pinto prices, and that's a bit of a problem. So I decided, unless it wasn't a high-end client, I wasn't getting into new builds. And security extension is interesting because when I worked on the help desk and the client services level at the hospital, security was always a big interest of mine. And a lot of my learning came from the legendary hacker, Kevin Mitnick at one time, who just actually recently passed away. And the discussion there was, he got me interested in this whole social re-engineering and how we hack stuff. And so that just became a big interest of mine in protecting clients and helping them and making sure we did the right data backups. So that's kind of how the security side came to born.
And I would say you've become a leader in the WordPress space in security. There's probably 5 to 10 people who are really top level, and I would put you in that group. And you work with all those people anyway. All those people all the other people I would put in that group, like they work with. I already worked with Rob. You're in communication with people like Kathy Zant and some of the others that are really good in the security space. And so you really decided to focus on that, especially from your public, like what you're talking about. You could have gone anywhere, marketing, whatever. You decided to go security, and it bleeds over into everything you do. You preach it on social media and you have gone to different, we call them webinars, I guess. We had virtual webinars when the physical webinars were cut off, and that would pretty much be primarily what you do. It's a good lead in, I guess you might say, to more work. But you have really taken an interest in that. What's it look like for you now, and what do you see security looking like for you in your business moving forward?
So right now, thank you to Maine WP, who you do some work for, and you know well. Give them a shout out, and our friend Mr. Dennis over there. Love what he's created. I manage over 400 WordPress websites, give or take, somewhere in that ballpark. And as of the time of this record, I'm talking to a couple more agencies about taking on their stuff. So the problem is the average business owner doesn't take care of their website hygiene. I will tell you that. And it's easier to pay somebody like a couple $1,000 a year and just get out of it and say, do it for me, than try and do it themselves. And the other thing I'll tell you is security is all based on trust. So it's, do you trust the person you're working with to be upfront and honest with you? I tell you, most of business is based on trust. So it's funny, I've had clients move away, and it seems when they move away, they seem to get hacked pretty regularly. And then they come back, and it's just interesting. So I think more people need to take the security side seriously, even on a small website.
What I find interesting with what has happened with your business, and I'm not sure if others in the perhaps a couple people might be in the same boat, but you're doing security maintenance for not just your own personal clients, but you're doing it for other agencies. So it's almost like you become a white label for other agencies. I find that fascinating, which puts more people under your umbrella, which is why you're probably one of the top 5 people in the Maine WP community with the most sites. I would put you up there. I know there's a couple that are pushing 1,000. So, but you have gained a lot of your customers in maintenance simply from helping other agencies. First of all, I say kudos to those agencies who found a solution that wasn't their strong suit and reached out to you and said, would you do this for me? But how did that get started? I mean, most people are not willing to let somebody else manage their other people, their own websites. And then, there's cost on top of it.
I reached out to some agencies and basically offered them to do it for them, and just kept pounding that drum, because you know how website owners don't have time to do this? Well, most agency owners don't want to do it either. So that's the other problems. What do you do unless you specialize?
Well, let me ask you this then. Those agency owners, were they already doing it and just didn't like it? Or was it getting lost, in the cracks? Or when you reached out to them, like, where was their status on doing security and maintenance?
A bit of both, actually. So some were doing it well, and then some were not our problem. They were leaving money on the table. So
they weren't. Okay. So if they weren't doing it, did they have to get their client to sign up, or how did that work?
Basically get the client to sign up, give the agency a cut, and, as a subcontractor, charge what they need to charge.
Huh. That's and that speaks to security, the need security. You sent me an email you sent me an email with a link to another security breach at a major university, and they're out every day. And I have a friend in the cybersecurity space in the Little Rock area. And so between you and him and Ryan, even sometimes I keep up with this, and it's really fascinating. And I am a beginner level on this thing compared to you, but I do my best to keep up. I think in a perfect world, I'd just let you take all my clients too, but you helped me, so that's good.
That's okay.
Let's move forward to one of you did 2 things. You talk about 2 things that you used to grow your business. Now, That's not saying, because you did say that you did some advertising in the early days. You did a lot of speaking, a lot of networking. You grew kind of organically that way. And some of the things that probably every business needs to do. But nowadays, you don't do as much of that because you have a robust podcast, which we're on right now, and a robust email marketing list. So let's, first of all, I know you did the blogging for a while, went back in the days when you said just putting an article out got you a lot of traction, but then you switched to doing the podcasting, which I don't know, what episode are we on now?
367 or 360?
367. And in the ages of podcasting, I mean, I think Joe Casabona says most people don't get past 6 podcasts. Or
Danny
like
Brown would say the same. Bob Dunn, Doodoo would say the same. Nathan Wrigley would say the same. We're all up there. And it's funny, when we did episode 200, 200, we had a little bit of fun. We did a Legends of WordPress podcasting. So we had Nathan, Bob, and I just after 200 all on together. And that was a bit of a show, to say the least.
Two of the best voices along with you.
Yeah, it was fun.
Bob
nobody
and Nathan have radio voices if I ever heard. You know, they are. I always said my dad would have been a good podcast host. He did have the distinctive baritone radio voice, and he did actually DJ some back in the 70s. So, and he also did public address for the dirt track where I grew up. So he would have been a great podcast host. But anyway, that's out. I need to go back and listen to that episode. But I'm assuming it's a little bit more casual, relaxed, and fun.
Yeah, it was. It was trying to get a word in edgewise between the three of us was like awful. We just kind of let it go. It was back when I was doing audio only too, so there's no real video of it. It is on YouTube, but it's an audio track. So yeah.
Okay, so when did you start the podcasting thing? I know there's been some different iterations. You had 2 at one time, and you combined them.
It was like 2020. I decided, like a dummy, to start 2 podcasts at once for a novice podcaster. What a bad idea.
Great idea. No, I'm with you, man. I've done my share of the same thing.
And then what happened was I merged the 2 into one, which is titled the SDM Show, which is the one that's gone on. And how it started was I reached out to a friend and said, I want to do an interview about a book. I want to do a one-time shot. And then I realized how much I like doing it, so I just started doing it. And I've played with different formats. So typically the format now is early in the week I drop a solo show, and then later in the week I'll drop an interview show, usually. When this comes out, this will probably replace the solo show. So that will be kind of how we drop that. And that's kind of been my format for the last while. Sometimes when I do my monthly episode with Ryan, I might sneak an extra episode in or something's noteworthy, but it's a lot of work. I mean, to do podcasting, I'm probably putting in 10 hours a week of business promotion every week. So that's really
what I started to say. The thing about you, a lot of people may not realize, a lot of full-time podcasters, and I'm not saying that you do this all the time, but people who have the longevity that you have, that Bob has, that Nathan, that Joe Casabona, Kim Doyle, some of the people who've done it for a long time, sometimes they outsource the production part, which I'm a fan of, although I don't like to give the money away. You do not outsource the project, the production part. You do it yourself. That's why it takes you at least 10 hours a week.
Yeah, and I don't take ads from third parties. Yeah. So the nice thing about that, somebody asked me about that in build mode, and we were talking about affiliate marketing, and I said, I don't even do affiliate marketing because that means my podcast is carte blanche. So the problem is when you take ads, you always got to watch about peeving off your advertisers. I don't have any advertisers. It's my business, so I can say whatever I want. I mean, you want to be respectful, but I can call companies out. I've called companies out. I've called Matt Mullenweg out. So as many people may or may not know. So, yeah.
Yeah. So kind Can you? I mean, you had two. You had the solo, and then you had the interview shows. And I'm a fan of interview shows too, but sometimes they can go on a long time and be hard to keep up with. But you have interviewed some top name guests, both in the WordPress space and outside the WordPress space. I know I've hooked you up with a few people. I still have at least one more to hook you up with. But what kills me about Rob, and this is something that not even on our little sheet that I wrote down, but Rob is this voracic. I don't know if that's the right word. He's this major consumer of books. He probably reads a book a week, maybe two. I don't know. And what's funny about Rob, which I don't expect this anytime I say something, I'm like, hey, Rob, I just started reading a new book. And, I don't get excited about books too much. I just started reading a new book. This is a great book. Let me show you. And I'm not thinking Rob's going to go out and buy the book. The next day, he's bought the book. And then he's probably finished the book before I have. I mean, he is so he reads a whole lot. And I think, that's a credit. I like to digest stuff a lot, which is probably one reason I don't read very fast. So probably takes me too long to read books because of that. And I get distracted easily. But can you talk a little bit about your love affair with reading books?
So it started off when I was young. My grandfather was an avid reader. My dad's dad, Bob, or Robert. And my grandmother, Pearl, was an avid reader. My father was an avid reader. My mother is not an avid reader. I have three brothers. Two of us are avid readers. Two of us are not. My youngest brother, Graham, in Fort Saskatchewan, Alberta, outside Edmonton, is an avid reader. So we both read. And I started reading a boys series by the name of the Hardy Boys when I was young.
Yeah, I remember the Hardy Boys series.
My father had the old brown covered ones from when he was a boy. So not even the newer ones, the old ones. And I started reading that, and I fell in love with that. My genre for reading is interesting. It's usually, in the fiction side, it's either mystery, Hardy Boys, or science fiction, or what we call historical fiction. So historical fiction, it's like a guy like John Jakes who wrote the North and South miniseries. That's historical. And the beauty of reading fiction books is I paint a picture in my head. I can see exactly what's going on, how it's going on. Now, I read a lot of business books. I'm reading right now, I'm just finishing off Kristen Wright's book on journaling, which Kristen works for Automatic and has been a guest on the show, actually. She worked for a journaling app called the Day One app.
Yep.
So, which I absolutely love. And Kristen's book is called The Transformational Year. It's a great book. The next non-business book I'm going to read is a book called Having a Non-Anxious Life by Dr. John Deloney. It just came out. It's been sitting on my shelf for 10 days now, so on the pile. And he's a psychotherapist who talks to people to help get them through life problems. He's a mental health guy, as I call him. And he has a podcast, so he's that. So there's, my reading. And of course, I have an interest in sports history, hockey history. I have over 300 hockey history books in storage. And people laugh at that and say, but hockey history, I just love. I know more about the game in the 40s and 50s than a lot of people that lived during that time. So that's kind of
a lot of my Canadian friends, both men and women, are huge hockey fans. Yeah, and the one that she's not really a fan, but I'm talking about, the one that really cracks me up is Renee Paquette, the voice on AEW. She's a sports. She does backstage interviews on All Elite Wrestling. She used to be on WWE, and you said she started her career at TSN, I think, here in Canada as a sports reporter. She loves her hockey. She loves her hockey, and I'm not sure if her husband, who's from Cincinnati, cares a lick about hockey, but they're an interesting duo. But she loves her hockey.
Several big people started at TSN. The other big one, notable, since we're talking about college football, was Mark Jones, who covers ABC college football. Mark played, his brother, Paul, is a voice of the Toronto Raptors on radio. Actually, they're both in the sports broadcasting. And they both played with my second cousin, Tim Ryder, at York University basketball. So the Jones family, I got to know quite well many, many years ago. So
we could go down this road. I have a friend whose dad played back in the day at, I want to say, it was one of the Ivy League schools, in that area. And it sounded like his claim to fame was tackling Jim Brown. So she's got a picture of that. He was a contemporary of Jim Brown.
My favorite goalie of all time played at an Ivy League school called Cornell, and that was the only magical number 29. Ken Dryden of the Montreal Canadiens came out of the Ivy League. So yeah.
And I have often said one of my favorite books of all time is written by a guy named Gary Andrew Poole about Red Grange. I think it's simply called The Galloping Ghost.
Yep.
Excellent book. And I have a whole story about how I ended up getting that book, but that's not for this podcast. I want to move into our last topic of conversation. I feel like it's a culmination of everything we just talked about. It's like a funnel going right into this one subject, because I believe probably everything that we just talked about funnels right into your email marketing list. Because whether it's security or even your love of books or whatnot, because you've given books away through your email list, you share technical expertise, WordPress, security, even talk about your podcast. It all seems to funnel into that email marketing list.
It does. Yeah, it's funny. When I started growing a list, I recognized early on there's only two things you own: your website, your email list. And people say, well, the email list platform can go down. And my answer to that is I export my email list once a month, no matter what I do. So that's the secret there. I've got about, I guess, 8,000 active. I probably have about 13,000 total. The key to email lists is, of course, to prune your list and stop sending to people not opening. People say that's cheating, adding your stats. I would say no, that's about impacting deliverability. Talk to Jason Resnick. Shout out to Jason sometime. And shout out to Simon. He's another one. He's Simon Harper. He's a MailChimp. Authorize those guys. And what I'll tell you is the list gives you some freedom. So I can write pretty well anything I want. I typically don't do hard sales, but I have lately. I've done a couple, get on your security bandwagon and do it. I'll share tips. I'll share tricks. I think I'm going to do one that I'm going to drop tomorrow, which is just going to be some tips and stuff like that, and just keep working your list. And when people reply to your list, answer them, reach out to them, be good to them.
To me, it's a major deal when somebody replies. 9 times out of 10, it's through the email list. But like I had the last email I sent, somebody actually talked about it on Twitter. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, this is great. Somebody actually mentioned what I talked about on Twitter. And, I don't get a lot of those, but so it's precious when I do get one. Let me ask you I'm assuming this is going to come out in the next week or two. Am I right about that? Next couple weeks?
You are next week, actually. Yeah.
Okay. Let me get you to give some advice and feedback for those listening who are probably all in about the same boat, mostly agencies, that kind of thing. And regarding email, we are coming into the Black Friday season, Cyber Monday, all that jazz. Now, most of us are service providers. We don't really have products to sell half off or whatever. Some may, but what is the best way to take advantage of the frenzy that's going on as a service provider, a tech service provider at that, with the Black Friday, Cyber Monday craze?
Be honest with your customers and don't lie to them. So by that, I mean, a lot of tech companies will inflate their prices before they offer the discount. Don't do that, guys. Do it on your current pricing. So don't auto-inflate. It's okay to send an email out that says you will not offer these prices again this year. If you're going to do that, be honest and don't do it. Like I've done that recently. I jumped my advertising before Black Friday, as you know. So I've gone that road. Be honest. Keep in mind that people might be interested in your other products. Still worry about building the relationship in the emails. I know I've got an email rule that says that Black Friday's in the subject line. Take the email and toss it into this folder, and I might get to it and I might not, just because my inbox is so inundated. So I've actually set up a Black Friday rule, Cyber Monday rule, and just kind of work it and try and build that relationship. More important than the sale price is building that relationship and that trust level. And to me, that's more important. If you don't have something to offer that's tangible, maybe give away some 30-minute coaching sessions, and give away a limited of 5 on Black Friday. What's that going to cost you? Some time. Think about it. Be creative.
Okay. And would you start in with this as soon as November gets here? Because I think everybody will get overwhelmed when Black Friday gets here. They're going to get all these emails, and I think maybe starting with your clients a month, but it's just a speculation on my part. Maybe starting in early November on all this stuff.
I would suggest starting in November, and I would say you probably need your plans in place like right about the time of this air. So you need to get your plans moving quickly. And the same thing for Christmas too, by the way. You should be starting your Christmas email marketing now. Don't wait till December 15th. It's too late. Don't wait till December 1st.
Okay.
It's too late.
That begs a question for me here. And I'm going to tap into your expertise. You have the Black Friday, Cyber Monday, which is right after Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving. Obviously, you guys have already had yours. But when you're talking about your Christmas campaign, as a service provider, what kind of campaign would a Christmas campaign look like?
One of the things a lot of companies have is money at the end of the financial year. And a lot of companies still go January to December. So maybe you want to tap into offering a service at a discount to get them in as a lost leader. Maybe you want to offer a discount on a software package that wasn't as good as your Black Friday package. Maybe you want to offer something where you give them a free book. It's the same type of advertising, just typically not as good as Black Friday or Cyber Monday.
So you would do that in December?
I would do it starting as soon as Cyber Monday's over.
Okay. Hadn't thought about, typically your Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Christmas stuff is either e-commerce or product companies, not so much service. Service companies will try to piggyback it sometimes, but I don't usually do a lot during the holidays myself because I'm usually focused on other stuff. I have some ideas already.
On the security side, December is one of my biggest months for renewals.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. Because people have money on the table, they have budgets left, and at their calendar financial years, January to December, they're spending money. They want to use it.
So the once a year payments that you might be able to get that in December. Okay. Good to know. All right. Well, I hope this was helpful to everybody. Hopefully helpful to you. And thanks for letting me ride along with you on this.
Thanks, Todd. I appreciate you coming on as always.
All right. I don't have any cool one-liners to end other than Dusty Rhodes, and that was get a dream, hold on to it, and shoot for the sky. So long.
Thanks, Todd. Have a great day. This show is brought to you by StunningDigitalMarketing.com, your Toronto leader in digital marketing services. Not only do we protect your WordPress website, we can help you with your site, provide social media management for your business, or even do one-on-one consulting. To find out more, go to StunningDigitalMarketing.com. A very special thank you to Todd Jones for hosting this podcast and taking it over. Thanks, Todd. Hey, everybody, Rob here again. Thanks for listening to the SDM show. It's such a pleasure to have you every week. If you want more on our agency website, go to stunningdigitalmarketing.com. We are your WordPress security experts. We'd be glad to help you out. If you want to learn more about me, Rob Cairns, go to meetrobcairns.online. From there, you can find links to everything I do on the web, as well as book time with me. So feel free. If you want to make comments about this podcast or know a guest possibly suitable for the podcast, please email us at podcast@stunningdigitalmarketing.com. Or conversely, you can go to X, formerly known as Twitter, and tweet at me at Rob Cairns. This podcast is dedicated to my late father, Bruce Cairns. Dad, I miss you very much, and I love you. Please join us next week for another interesting podcast, and have a great week, everybody. Bye for now.